So first off, Brent Burns signing here in Colorado. What do you see him adding to the locker room?
I think he's going to add a lot, actually, on and off the ice. I think his career speaks for itself. He's a character, but when game time, practice time, elite shape, takes care of himself, committed hockey player. But I think there's also there's a juice component that he brings everywhere he's been. He's a beloved teammate. If you just talk to people and players and GMs that have been around him, this is a special person, so we're super excited to have him.
Is that kind of the thing that led you to looking at him and looking into this, making this deal, or what did you identify?
Well, you just don't ever know, right, who's going to actually be there on July 1, but when July 1 hit, Brent is that special type of guy that you check in on. And we had some discussions with Ryan Lindgren and his camp before, and we wanted to add to that, to the back end, and it just made sense with Brent.
You spoke a lot in March about the Coyle and Nelson trades. There was rumors that you guys were going after Jonathan Toews. I guess has this kind of been by design to bring in veterans? Like in 2022, you had veterans that played like minimal roles, like Jack Johnson, Cogliano. Now you have these veterans that are playing more prominent 30-goal, 20-minute roles. Like, is that by design, or?
I think we've got, we had experience on that team too, right? Veterans, you could be a guy at 18 or 19 and plays 5 or 6 years in the league. At 25, you're kind of a veteran. So I think we're just trying to get as good a hockey players as we can in rounding out the roster. I think, back to Brent for a little bit, I think that's he's a serious, committed guy. Obviously, you don't have the career and the length of the career that he's had without taking care of yourself, and you don't start taking care of yourself at 31, 32 to play until you're this age. That starts at a young age, that discipline and that level of commitment. At least, in my humble opinion, that's what he's done for the duration of his career. And him adding to, anytime you have a guy that has that kind of experience to put in with Gabriel Landeskog and Nathan McKinnon and the other guys that we have that are maybe not quite 40 years old, but they've got a lot of miles in this league and have been good players for a long time. So I think he's going to fit right in with our group.
Yes, right now you have 4 righties in your top 6. How does that work?
Training camp will determine that, and how Bedsy wants to mix and match in camp and see what works and what doesn't.
You guys, so it's a $1 million cap hit. But you guys obviously have the bonuses, baked in there that could end up drawing on next year's cap. How much? I guess how nice is it first to have finally some movement in the cap? And you guys are the only team that's kind of borrowed from next year's cap. What was the thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out if we do in fact borrow from next year's cap. I mean, obviously you don't go into it, thinking that you're not going to or what. But there's a lot of things that can happen between now and next July 1 as to whether that in fact will come. But I mean, the structure is obvious, right? There's a games played component, and that goes in the cushion. So we'll see now with the flexibility that we have, if what else we do here, whether it's in the next few days or if something percolates later in the summer that we can add. I think we're entering into a different time period than maybe the last few years from our last cup, when the cap is flat, right, and it's not moving, and how long is it not moving for, and that was a reality. And now hopefully we're in this scenario where there is going to be money in the system. So is that going to mean less players hit free agency? Is that going to mean no need for money retained in transactions? And how is it going to shake out? I think that's all to be determined. But at least these dramatic increases are certainly helpful, especially for teams that are entering that cycle to try and win. And that was a tough part for us a few years back, when you just know it's flat and you've got good players coming up on the end of their deals.
As soon as you guys could, you extended Parker Kelly for another 4 years. I guess, what is it about him as a player and as a person that you want to commit that much time?
Well, I think it was a couple of things. Obviously, he came in and he played to his role exactly as he had to do. He's not the fanciest guy. He's not the most skilled guy, but his skill is bringing 80, 90, 100% effort every single night, and that is not easy to do. And he does it to a T. And the fact that he can play center is another feather in his cap. That positional versatility, the utility value that he brings, and I think you guys saw it. That line was elite in the playoffs, and those guys are not easy to find. And when you have it and it's trusted and your coach trusts it and a guy does it night after night, it's not a sometimes thing at that part of our in our lineup. It can't be a sometimes thing. It has to be every single night, max effort, and that's what Parker Kelly does, and we didn't want to lose that.
After the Game 7 loss, you and Joe sat up there. Emotions were still raw as you tried to dissect what was missing and what you needed. As you can reflect and maybe take a step back, have you addressed those things? And do you feel like you've gotten closer to where you want to be?
It's still raw. Obviously we've had to turn the page, but it's very easy for us to can say, right? We thought that team was good, really good, and I think we can point to 5-on-5 we were really good. We didn't step on their throat early in the series, and it's blah 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 at this point. We didn't get it done. Whether we've addressed it to the point where we can say we have a team that's going to be a finished product that going into next year's playoffs today, I don't know. I think we've got to play a lot of hockey at the start of next year to kind of see it out through. But I think we have a very good hockey team. And I think, with a couple of reasons. One, our captain. We're, for the first time in many, many years, we're going into an off season with the expectation that Gabe is going to not only play, but play consistently and be able to play well. We haven't been able to say that the last number of years. Two, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, we feel that we've got two very good goaltenders that we're going to have from training camp on. And three, Val Nichushkin. Last year at this time was I'm not going to say an unknown, but he was hard at work doing his thing, and we feel he's in the best place that he's been in years, and we're super happy for Val for many, many reasons, and one of them is that it benefits our hockey team. So, and then you add in Brock Nelson, who we believe with a full year of training camp and a full year with us, it's the top two lines are good. They're solid. Now that doesn't mean the magic wand has been spread over the group and we're anointed, because we're not. We got to get back on the hunt, and it's a tough division, it's a tough conference, and we got a lot of work in front of us.
We haven't talked to you since you signed Nelson. At the time, that was almost all the cap space. Like, obviously you were able to find more later, but what was it about your relationship with him, or what he did when he was here before? Did you said, this is the big decision and we're doing it now?
Well, I think there's not a lot of 2Cs, right? And then there's not a lot of 2Cs that hit the market, and I think we knew that. And the ones that do get there are usually expensive, and to trade for them is not easy. So Brock came in. There's obviously going to be an adjustment for any player that comes in at the deadline, especially from a place where he's been 1 year, his entire career. I thought he did everything that he could and played well. He's a smart defensive centerman. He's long, he's lengthy. I think we're going to use him a bit more in the special teams role, and now that he'll have full training camp and things like that behind him. But Brock is a proven player at this level. He takes good care of himself, and he fit in. And I think at the end of the day, he saw that. He saw a good group, and that he wanted to continue to be a part of it. I'm guessing, I'm pretty sure, it would go without saying, he had a lot of options. I'm sure if he would have went to July 1, when you just look at the number of actual centers that hit the market go to. So the fact that he trusted, his next 3 years with us, I think says a lot about what he thought about our coaches and our group. So super fortunate to have him be a part of it.
So Brock was a guy who didn't make it to market. From the outside perspective, it seemed like there were a lot of players who re-signed with their previous teams, and that free agency maybe just didn't have that same kind of scramble that it normally is.
Yep.
From your perspective, was it kind of the same where
Yep.
options you guys were looking at and just dried up?
Yeah, and I think that's potentially, it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves over the next 12 months now, knowing that there's going to be these expected cap jumps, and will that be the trend? With something, well, obviously you have to experience and learn from and see, but yeah, it very well could be. I think there's some good players that did hit free agency, and there's still some decent ones out there for sure. So, but it'll be an interesting dynamic from a few years ago when there weren't these jumps, and you get crunched with arbitration, or you guys that are closing in on UFA, and you're just capped out. So it'll be interesting to see.
With the caps jumping, it seems like maybe in 2 years it might be 110 million, something like that. Do you have the commitment from ownership that if you have to spend to the cap, you can do that?
No doubt in my mind. Ownership has always been behind us and supported us in every single way during my time here, so it's zero concern.
You made a comment last week about like a less shot, 6'3", 220, whatever the
Yep.
height and weight and all that. Like you end up with Brent Burns, who plays on the right side. Is this, in your estimation, a finished decor, or are you still aggressively trying to make changes?
I don't know about aggressively, but we're still trying to find a way to improve on both up front and on the back end. And I think that comment was more, listen, we hear the noise, we talk about it internally. We're not a team with redwoods on the back end, and we got guys that can defend, right? Taze, Kale speak for itself. Manson's probably the one guy that consistently brings that pop, and we'll see if Keaton Middleton can continue to develop. But Sam Malinski, Sam Girard are good hockey players, and they're not big, but they are trusted. But we did feel if there is an opportunity to add some length, to add some size, and I think for Brent in particular, he's a very good penalty killer, and I think that was a big part of the draw.
You guys gave Sam Malinski that 1 year deal. I guess just where's the organization at with Sam, and what was kind of the thought, because he's a UFA at the end of next year?
Yep, he is. I think he had a very good year, right? For he's not a kid, but he's not an experienced pro, right? So you want to see it, right? He signed with us. He was a very good player with the Eagles. He comes up, he does a nice job, and then last year's his first sort of taste of the NHL, and I think he played well. I think Sam would say, in January it was you can hit a wall, right, when you're not totally used to it. But I think he used that the Four Nations break as a reset really effectively. He can skate. I think you guys all see the flashes of the shake and bake in his game inside the offensive zone blue. He's an attacking type of player with the puck. He can skate. He can really shoot it. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of room at the end on the power play for a defenseman, but we know he has that in him, and we're just hopefully going to continue to see another bump in his game. And what will that look like? Is it him forcing his way into an 18-minute a night role? Is there a jump offensively with confidence and with another year of getting stronger in his own development this summer, which he's going to do? I think we'll know very quickly Christmas time as to where he's going. But I think he did a good job establishing trust with the coaches and showing that he's an NHL player.
Speaking to the defense as well, after the draft you talked to us about a couple names you were circling back on. Eric Johnson was not one of those. Have you had any conversations about his return or what his future might look like?
We've talked with all of our pending UFAs both before and since, and we'll continue to see if there's something that makes sense. But right now we're gonna sit tight and assess the market and talking with other GMs and see where we're at.
Lucky last ones, guys. Go ahead.
It's felt like a slower free agency across the league. Ehlers comes off the board today. Is there an expectation that we might see a flurry of action on these second-tier guys, or are you really gearing up for a long-haul free agency?
We're keeping tabs on a few things, both free agents and some other things, but right now I think we're gonna assess and monitor, and if something makes sense financially and term wise, we'll keep our eye on a few things, but we'll also look at other options as well.
You in on the pickleball game today?
I am not in on the pickleball game today. They're lucky.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.